Dexter, we're doing this. We're doing this. I like this. So we've been talking a lot frequently. We've been talking a lot lately. We've been talking frequently lately. Okay, we'll do that. But I like that inadvertently. I didn't even mean to. I turned on like the podcast, Aaron, talking to you. Did you tell? I was like, hey, Dexter.
Hey, Dexter. Somebody I've never known before. You're like a celebrity guest.
Yes, yeah, me talking like someone you've never met. Hey, exactly. Dexter. Ridiculous. Tell me about your latest movie.
This episode is presented by OIT VoIP. Enhance your client's communication abilities with our VoIP solution, featuring integrated billing, on-demand training, and live US support. Collaborate seamlessly with Microsoft Teams integration and put your entire phone system in your pocket with Mobile X. Improve your offerings and increase profitability with reliable service for 1/10 of the average MSP acquisition cost. To learn more, visit oit.co or dial 844-CALL-OIT.
Dexter, I'm really excited to get you on this episode. I'm really excited to get you on this podcast all together. Oh, let's go ahead and introduce this up. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, everyone out there in the interwebs, welcome to 38 at 38. My name is Aaron Bolton, and we talk about the most ridiculous job stories. Every episode, I have a guest on. My guest talks about their most ridiculous job story, and then they ask me about one of my jobs that I've had, which all of them have something absolutely ridiculous to do with it. And today, my guest is the wonderful, the heartfelt, the godly, the loving father and sales expert, Dexter Williams.
Did he?
Dexter.
What was this? How do you pronounce this?
Derek Williamson. All right,
Yes.
Derek Williamson. Dexter, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. I'm living the dream, loving living. Hopefully, if you hear some background noise, that is my son. He clearly does not want to participate in the podcast, but he wants to make sure he gives great background noise. Yes.
Absolutely. Don't worry. According to Gallup, that makes us relatable. So,
well,
yeah, they know what's going on. They make that sound of horse. Gallup.
It's funny because we just reached like the terrible twos, and I know exactly what they mean when they say that. And I'm not calling my child terrible because I would never do that. But
I can. You want me to?
Please.
Yeah, your kid's terrible.
Yes. Because we have the twos that are happening right now, and he's decided that he wants to participate in the joke. So I love it.
Nice. Well, good. He's an active and participating member of society. Yep. That's great. Dex, I want to show this. I think you'd appreciate this. Knowing me, we've known each other since 2013, 2014. So come COVID, and shortly after, everything went to online, right? Everything went to remote, everything. And so all my trainings went to remote as well. And I always had some type of other cup, and I wanted to have a nice looking professional cup, nothing flashy. Usually I'm like, my friends say that I always try to Martha Stewart stuff, like I always try to go overboard. I was like, nothing flashy. And I was like, I love Yeti. Went on, got a Yeti, was looking at them, and I was like, which very bland colors should I get? Silver, white, all this. And I went with navy blue. And the color they sent me was this.
Yeah, that's not navy blue.
Nope.
Because I was like, well, hold on. There's got to be an end to this story where he tells me why they sent him a different cup than what he ordered.
They just sent me this. So I'm like, okay, because we're online, we're doing remote, we're doing trainings. I need their mind focused. I don't need anyone distracting them. Excuse me. Like the most ridiculous colored cup. So I laughed when I saw it. I was like, my wife's like, just return. I was like, no. This was the universe, God. This was somebody playing a joke. One of the angels saying, this will be so funny. He will love this,
No.
I'm going with it.
Well, see, I notice how showboaty your whiteboards are. So the only thing I'm trying to look at you right now, and by the way, you're very good looking, but the whiteboards behind you, I don't know if you're scribbling or scratching or what's going on back, but it seems like you got a lot going on.
That's the trick there. You scribble and you keep people wondering, am I busy? Are these the scratchings of an insane person? Who knows? I had some, I checked myself because I would write just ridiculous jokes or ideas or whatever that I want to build out. And I've changed that to making this board, but you can't really see it. But I'm just waiting for people to know me enough one day where there's another YouTube channel that just deciphers the stuff on my board. They just, now this week, Aaron did.
And I'm actually spending the time doing that right now. So that's going to be my next podcast episode for anybody interested. Yeah. It's going to be at Dexter understands Aaron. So just be ready.
Golly, that's understands Aaron. And everyone would know who this Aaron is. It must be.
Don't need a last name. Don't need a first one. I mean, honestly, I could say understands anybody, but because I'm saying authentic. I love the word authentic.
Where are you looking?
I'm going right up top there to the blue. Common.
Blue? Oh, this?
This is blue. Yes.
That's purple. But dude,
it's
you know what it is?
I'm
you're gonna like this.
Tell me about it.
Uncompromisingly authentic.
We talked about that the other day.
We did talk. Didn't I tell you? Hold on, I gotta write this down. I'll forget. I came in and wrote it down.
Yeah.
Uncompromising, and right underneath it, I've got uncompromising truth with unconditional love.
Unconditional love. Uncompromising truth with unconditional love. I love both of those things. Shout out to Pastor Daryl Black, Grace Family Church. But yeah, wow.
Hooty hoo! Shout out to now you go ask that pastor if he ever had a hooty hoo shout out. Hooty hoo, pastor.
I'm buying the fact that he did, and in fact, I bet he shouts himself out like that sometimes in the mirror. He's just like hooty hoo,
hooty hoo. Time to get your pastoring. On hooty hoo. Awesome. Dexter, thank you so much again for being on the show. Like I said, we run down funny, hilarious job stories. The tagline is previously stressful, currently hilarious job stories, because that's really what they are. Usually the funniest job stories, it's always like they're bad in retrospect, right? And currently they're great. And usually the more stressful they were, the better story, or the funnier, more ridiculous story it is presently, right? So you have a story. Well, let's talk first. What is your main field of work?
So I work in sales. I've been both in sales management and a direct salesperson. Been in account management. I've kind of been all around when it comes to sales, right? So I've done everything from customer success to account management to being a salesperson to being a sales leader.
You know what that's called? That's called being a sales expert. Honestly, that's what you got your hours in, man. You got your time in. You're a sales expert, son. You start with your chest. You lead it out with your chest. Lead it. Awesome. All right. Wondering, do you have any idea of, and I know I didn't ask you beforehand, but if you can guess, like, how many jobs have you had?
So probably around 5 jobs. I've actually started my own business a couple of times. So on top of that, so probably about 7.
Right. Yep. Okay, good. We count all of that. And do you have many ridiculous job stories?
Oh, too many to count. You know what's funny is that as I learned the premise of what you would be asking me today, I thought about like what story could I actually tell versus which ones could I keep to myself. So I've got way too many, but I've got a few that I think are worthwhile.
So you and we worked at one company before, and I haven't mentioned the name of the company. And if the story is from that company, that's fine. Is the story from that company?
You know what? I kept those stories out.
That's what I'm talking about.
I was a young manager at that point, so I'm not as good at I wasn't as good at my job, so I couldn't necessarily lead people. Then I got promoted quickly, and then next thing you know, I'm in charge of 9 other adults, 10 other adults, 15 other adults, and I'm like,
this is wild.
Yeah, this gets interesting quick.
Yeah. I also haven't talked about that job on this podcast at all because one, I want it to be because there's so much, man. It might be a round table of just a handful of people who also used to work at that and is far enough away from that company. So it's not, you can't get messy, but I think that would be a round table talk of that would be phenomenal.
Be greatest stories ever. I mean, especially because we were a young company where all of us are coming up, we're learning, we're growing.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the most 10 fun
years
times.
Ago.
Yeah, those are the most fun times.
Yeah, definitely. So, what job story have you decided to bring to 38 and 38 today?
So my job story for today has to do with actually where I worked at HubSpot. I was up there in Boston for a year. I was there by myself. I had just gotten engaged. So I had my soon-to-be wife. And
by the way, that's an awesome get, HubSpot.
Yeah,
good. Yeah, good on you on that.
Yeah, great company. Love them to this day. I will say one of the best opportunities I had. So I'm going to hate for anybody that watches this that's from Boston. Not necessarily my favorite city. I mean, it's a good one. Shots thrown, shots fired. I guess you don't throw shots. You can't throw a shot, but you
could.
Can.
It won't be as effective. It won't be as effective.
So shots fired. I'm not a huge Boston fan, but I did love HubSpot. And
you hear that, Boston? We're coming for you.
This podcast is I hate Boston now, and then
that's it.
But it was. I think the problem was there. I both left my car down here. I drove a rear wheel Mustang, so there's no chance I was going to be able to drive that up north. I mean, in fact, that car would have been buried in snow the first winter I had. But one of my favorite stories is early on in my endeavors there, I got invited out to Brian Halligan's house, who was the CEO at the time.
Is that the same guy who did the recording, the famous email when you canceled HubSpot or when you would stop like one of their, or what was it, unsubscribe from HubSpot? Do you know about this? When you unsubscribe from. Okay, so this was way back.
Sounds like something he would do, though. But before you even finish the statement,
yes. This is like, man, this is. I look up to this video. So it was an unsubscribe. Whenever you get those emails, and then you unsubscribe from HubSpot, it would take you to a page where you click unsubscribe, and there was a video of him. He's like, "Hey, listen, I hate to see you leave, but it's fine. This whole act, he was like, it's fine. But was it me? Did I do something? I mean, maybe I could. And it was this whole thing where you could tell he just riffed. And they edited it up. And like, there's a part where it just cut. And he was like, oh, and he was like, well, please come back. Please. I mean, dude, I didn't even have anything. I think I downloaded an ebook. There was no business I would have with HubSpot. And I saw that and I was like, I'm going to stay subscribed.
Yeah. He was so you had two kind of co-founders, Dharmesh and Halligan. And Halligan was always the one that sounds about right. I never saw the video myself, but that sounds about right. But so anyways, we go over to his house, I get invited, and this is in my first kind of 3 months there. I'm a new sales manager. I'm actually their first hire from the outside. So they were a lot like this other company that we worked for.
Yeah. Wow. I thought HubSpot would be way past, honestly, but wow.
At the point when I joined, they were just slightly larger. And I got the opportunity to just come in, as they were trying to really redefine themselves. hire some people from the outside, do that kind of thing. And they really did me the blessing of, letting me on board there. But the funny story is I go, now I played baseball in college, this, but
right.
We also had a ping pong table in the middle of our clubhouse. We played at Jackie Robinson Ballpark in Daytona Beach, but in the middle of our clubhouse, we had a ping pong table, and the battles there were epic. They were, two college kids getting back and forth at each other. But Brian Halligan taught me a whole nother level to that game.
Really?
Yes. So
of ping pong, table tennis.
Yes. He literally, I get there.
So first, wait, hold on. I'm sorry. You said you went to his house.
Yeah.
Did you go to? Was it a house?
It was like it was a thing for employees. So a bunch of us got together. I was kind of the new guy, so they were trying to welcome me in. He was giving some, hey, new guy, come with us.
Yeah.
But
was it a house or like a mansion? Like what?
It's a huge. So you have to picture in Boston. There's really not a lot of mansions, but there's a huge apartment. There's a huge apartment that he lives on. That's on top floor, and it's penthouse. So you can see all over Boston, and it's very, very beautiful place.
Right.
But he also
you weren't going to go down to the Harvard Yard with mine pie.
Yeah, no. Park your car and have a yard. So we get up there, and of course, they tell me that there's a ping pong table there, and of course, I'm me. So I was talking so much noise. I was like,
"Yeah, you're ready to go."
Who wants it? Who wants it on this ping pong table? So I think my first match, I did okay, right? I finished somebody off. It was kind of an easy game. Halligan jumps up.
Dude, you're such a baseball player. You're such a baseball player. just a very natural, like, it's not arrogance, but just extreme confidence in my skills. I'm sorry.
I'm going to win all of these. I mean, and especially when you're playing against a bunch of people that are like been in the software game, never really even played college sports. So you're just kind of like, I'm going to run through everybody that's here.
Right.
Up jumps Halligan, and when I say this guy is one of the best ping pong ball players I've ever met in my life, I didn't realize why he didn't go to the Olympics. Like we're back. I'm smashing, right? So like the thing I'm pretty good at is once I get a ball that pops up good enough, I could and he just pounds it back in my face, and I'm like, that's not even supposed to come back to me. So I don't.
you don't have a defense.
I don't have that skill. After I smash it, I'm supposed to win. That's supposed to be my point.
Did you say I'm scared? Did you? Did you know the rules of the game?
Excuse me. I smash, you lose.
Sorry.
No. He wasn't playing that game. And you would think like, okay, well, he's the CEO. He'll take it light on you. Nope. He didn't make that choice. Not today.
Did he crush you?
Oh, 100%. I don't even think I scored. I honestly, he would back up. He'd be like 4 feet away from the table. I'm like, is that real? Is this a rule that you could actually do that?
He's playing like whatchamacallit, like Hong Kong rules.
Yeah.
He's playing like original.
I'm like, how is this happening right now? This ball is not supposed to be coming back my direction. Yeah, the guy was really good. So I will say that was an amazing story that just was a lot of fun too. Because I literally laughed out loud when I got home. I was like, I got my behind whooped and being.
That's great, man. The whole time you're seeing, we all know the sketch by Dave Chappelle, the Charlie Murphy sketches. Not the Charlie Murphy, the Charlie Murphy, Rick James, Rick James, and with Prince. And I'm imagining you telling that whole story with cut-ins of like the dramatic acting, of like, and then here comes like the CEO, and he's like. Stands up.
Yeah.
Gets off all
blouses.
slow.
Yeah.
Blouses.
Blouses.
He has his own little paddle. HubSpot. It has a HubSpot insignia on it.
That was the crazy part about it was that I realized I picked up a normal paddle that was sitting near the table. He pulled his out of a bag. That's when you should know you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason why somebody should pull a paddle out of a bag, but
none. Yeah, most people, they have like a ping pong table at home because of the novelty of it. Maybe the kids or family comes over, friends come over, entertainment would make perfect sense with a big apartment space like that where he has room for a ping pong table. Yeah, sure, throw a ping pong table out over there. No, he was doing it to make a statement. That was his trophy. He's like, I'm the captain now. It's like, this is my ping pong table.
Exactly. I mean, like if you thought you were a good sales manager, he just wanted to let you know, like, hey, I can do this a little bit better than you. So, if you want to go, pal, let's go. But no. He's always a good dude, very gracious guy. But yeah, that was kind of my funny, story.
That's awesome, dude. I think I like it more just because I have that connection of seeing him on like video. Like I honestly, I saw that so many years ago. So I got to find out how long ago, but that was like the first kind of like, viral, also like weird thing for a company to do, for like a company to put that out from the CEO, and it worked phenomenally. So I still think about that as inspiration whenever I do a video or I do something that might be, oh, you're going to do that. That doesn't look professional. Well, hopefully the people who are watching would understand, it's not that it's unprofessional. It's just not professional. You could still have some humor when it comes to, to business and leadership. You can merge those. But yeah, every time I see that, or every time often when I do a video, I'm editing, I'm like, oh man, is this kind of, I think about him. And it wasn't like when that video came out, he wasn't like blown up. Like it wasn't HubSpot. It must've been because it was well before the time that you worked there that I saw that video. No. So, I mean, good for them.
I think you're right about like what so often becomes the failure of so many of us in this industry as in leaders is one of my early mentors said to me, we take everything too seriously, right? And that it inhibits our ability to actually grow and build the business. And so what ends up happening is we write like subject lines in our email that are, just sort of the wish-wash nonsense, or we write an email to somebody when we're trying to close a deal that they're going to obviously not read ever because it's 40 pages long and it says nothing. Right. Whereas the most successful I've ever been in my career is actually kind of going outside, catching somebody off guard. When they read something, they hear something, they see something that I produce, they'll kind of like have to take a double take and be like, did he just say that to me? Whether it's annoying or whether I call them out about something that they did, or it's the hardest part of our human nature, but it's the truth that the only way you'll pay attention is if I say something that's actually interesting rather than just sitting around. And I'm not claiming to be, I'm not overly interesting, but I try my best in interactions like that to make sure that as a function of what we do, that we're actually kind of, we try to say something interesting to the people that we work with.
Right. And that we remain uncompromisingly authentic.
Yep.
And that really is.
That's who you are. I've never been able to help this. I am who I am. I try to have, again, only speaking for myself, I can say that I try to have grace about things that I get into, about the projects that I take on. I try to, on some level, let people know that this is who I am, but then uncompromisingly authentic, and doing it with unconditional love, having passion for people. Sometimes the hardest part about sales is that you're actually trying to get people out of their own way. You're talking to them, you're messaging to them, you're whatever. But you're trying to get them out of their own way of making a decision that's going to be hard for them, maybe financially, maybe
or them not making a decision.
Exactly. And you know that this would be the right decision for them, but the only thing you can do is sometimes get them out of their own way. So other times you have to walk away. So that I'm fine with both of those things. That's comes with being uncompromisingly authentic.
Absolutely, man. The more people communicate best, or people communicate best with people who they can trust, right? And the best way that I've learned to get someone's trust is to listen to them, right? And don't BS them, right? Just listen to them and don't BS them. Just be honest and truthful. That's the best way. That's the best way to raise your value. It's the best way to raise your credit in everyone's mind and that's just being uncompromisingly authentic. Be yourself. And that's being honest about who you are. Like in the beginning, we were joking like, hey, Dexter, that's obviously not me. This is more of me, and be that person. That's the way to win. I'm telling you, catch people off guard is the best. I'll tell you if for anyone out there who is sending off LinkedIn messages, maybe to connections, they've connected with people and maybe there's automated messages. They're not messaging you back or whatever. You want to get their attention, do a video, not like a produced video. Go into that messenger on LinkedIn, click record a video and just say what you want to say. That's it. Just say what you want to say and let it go. Oh, I stumbled. Oh, I need to re-record it. Why? Was it truthful? Did you stutter a little bit? Did you okay, well, it's just a conversation like you're having with somebody regularly. That's what they're going to pick up on. I will tell you right now, it's one of those things where you do it and it makes sense and it works, so you stop doing it. Every message that I've ever done like that through LinkedIn has gotten a reply. Every one of them. And when people would connect with me, they saw me on something, they would connect with me. I'd connect back and then send them a video message and say, hey, thank you so much. And then they would respond back to me. Put yourself out there. Let people know who you are, that you're not just text, that you're not just a bot out there. This has been a message to the internet. All right, Dexter, that was a wonderful message sent. Thank you so much for that story. I really, really appreciate it. I'm a firm believer that if I'm blessed with a story, then it's my responsibility to gift back a story. And we're going to do that. We're going to talk about my story right after this ad.
Hey, I'm Powerhouse Ray.
And I'm Super Cousin Danny.
And we're the hosts of The Tech Bar. Pull up a stool with us every other Thursday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern for drinks, jokes, and games with your friends in the MSP channel.
And we're back. Welcome back, everyone. That was, let's face it, that was the best ad that you've ever seen. I know. And you should buy 4 of them. Whatever it was, just buy 4. We
all love corporate sponsors. Yep.
Yeah. So we're friends, okay? I really hope the corporate sponsor isn't like a funeral home. Like, buy all of them. You'll need them.
Yes.
You have some friends.
Well, eventually we'll all die. So there's no, right. I mean, buy as many of those as you need.
Yeah, all of them. You gift them.
Here, I got you. Could you imagine, Aaron, me getting you a gift card where it's like, hey, just in case, your funeral.
Yeah,
boom,
just in case. You got your whole packet here. I figured it out for you. Or better yet, hey, I got you a plot. It's next to mine.
Not awkward at all. Not awkward at all. No, $500. $500 down on your flowers. I'm not saying that you're going to die. I'm just, somehow sending you.
It's going to happen, but.
Right. Eventually. Right. So.
And then you end it with, oh, by the way, you're going to have to put in for the fund for the monthly maintenance.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Sorry about that. Forgot to tell you about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't worry. It's a great place, though. That's a great place. Awesome. It's in the South and very few Confederates.
That'll be. Yeah, you're like, Phil, cut this, please. Do not leave this in.
Phil, bring it on. Put on more. Why not? Oh my goodness. They'll Google me and realize my last name's Bolton.
Yeah.
And that means that, and find out that that's the hillbilly side of me.
The least surprising thing that they'll learn about you is that your last name is Bolton. However, the most surprising thing they'll learn about you. So there's that.
That's true. That's the fact. All right, Dex, you know how it is. And everyone else out there, have you been studying? I hope you remember. I know you do. You have a quote. We sent you a list of quotes. Each quote has to do with one of the jobs that I've had. I'm not sure which quote you've picked. And right when you tell me that quote, I've got to start talking about the job. So which quote did you pick?
So here's the great thing is I went through the list of these multiple times and I was thinking to myself, like, there's so many interesting ones that I feel like I want to talk to you about offline. One of them, I feel like I wasn't necessarily going to even put you on the spot for. Because I was like, I don't know he wants to tell this story because it doesn't seem that good.
I wrote them all. Wrote them all.
Threaten my hours one more time. And you know what the funny thing is? When I read this quote, I did another thing where I clapped my hand. Threaten my hours one more time. That's how you know you're serious. That's how you have to clap the hands.
You have to clap the hands. So let me think real quick. All right, of where it was. I know the job. So the job was down here in the South, and I think it was relegated to the South. Being I'm in Florida, there was a company, a grocery store called Cash and Carry. Are you familiar? You familiar with Cash and Carry?
Very true for me. Yeah.
This is they kind of phased out mainly, I guess, in the 90s, and like the last vestiges were holding on in the early 2000s. But for what I believe, I think they're all gone. But I worked when I was in high school for Cash and Carry. So I was thinking, I'm happy about this one. All right, so let me see. Okay. I'm trying to see in the line. So one of the jobs that I did have before was B&D. It was a grocery store, B&D. If you're familiar in Tampa, Florida, it's on 40th in Hillsborough, and it is rough. It's a rough grocery store, rough neighborhood. And so I left there. And I took all of my experience being a cashier and I took it over to Cash and Carry, which was in a slightly better neighborhood, but only slightly. And the stories from there ensued from that being not maybe the best neighborhood in the world for a teenager to be working in, but that's fine. So I ended up working at this job. My buddy from high school, or really a guy I know from high school, Winston, right? He was a senior in high school, 18 years old, but he was like 18 in the beginning of senior year. Somehow he was a manager. He was like the assistant manager at Cash and Carry, and he lived on his own.
So this was like a grown high schooler. This guy had, 3 kids, a wife. He was like,
right.
And you're only 18.
I was like, okay. How are you doing this? And he was dating a good friend of mine. And yeah, he lived in the trailer park right next to the Cash and Carry. So everything was, he was right there. He could pay his rent. I thought that was super cool. So he got me and my best friend Mario, who's been on the podcast before, and I've worked at different places also at B&D with. He got us both a job, or an interview anyways, and we got a job working at Cash and Carry. The things that happen here. This is the first time I was accosted by a drunk person, by what I could say was like a legit drunk. Just the stories you have from people coming in at in the grocery line. This guy comes in one night, staggering, right? He's like stumbling, and he like drops all of the limes, like all of the limes that we have. Like I don't know how many, but it was he had them all, the basket, like the little basket, and he's just like dumping them all. First of all, he didn't need to do that. I don't have to scan them, I just need to count them up or whatever. All right. So I grab them. So I'm looking through them, counting them all up. Yeah. So I'm counting them all up, and I ring it in, And this guy flips out. Why is it so expensive? What's going on? Why is it so? I was like, and I told him, because you bought a whole bunch of limes.
Sir,
like,
why did you need so many limes? What's going on?
And it wasn't like a water or like even some beer or something. It was just limes. It seems like he was drunk. He came into cash and carry for something, got distracted by the limes. End of story. Like, that was it. So he comes up with limes, and I'm like, yeah, he's like, they're not supposed to be that much money. I was like, they're 3 for $1 or 33 cents a piece. That sounds like a very reasonable price for a lime, right? Even back, 20 years ago, 25 years ago. But
you're old, yeah.
I know. Even back then, $1, 3 limes, sure. He's like, they're 33 cents a pound. And I said, excuse me? And he was just off his rocker, he was yelling. He was upset. I had to get the manager over. The manager, didn't have to. He was on his way over. So those are the types of situations I would run into on a daily. But man, I saw it as it was a competition. Like, I wanted to be the fastest, and we actually had. If you guys ever wonder on like our cash registers, our cashiers, are they ever measured on how much they scan or how fast they scan? They did at cash and carry. Like, you need to have a certain number of boops per minute. Like, and so, I mean, I was having fun with it. Like, I might have missed some things, but I was like, I've got to get all these boops in. I got to get all these boops. We would, oh my goodness, there was
by the way, you make an excellent boop noise. I mean, that was really good.
You put enough, that's how you know how many boops I've done. Ladies and gentlemen, that was not a sound effect. That was this guy right here. It's got to be popping, but also like rising, like boop, like falling off. I can also do this.
Okay, that one is too weird. Okay, that is too good.
I can also do a cow call. Ready?
No, here we go.
Hey, cow! Hey, get over here, cow!
Let's.
That's the dumbest thing.
Phil, hopefully you cut this. Okay.
Phil,
that was the biggest dad joke. That was the biggest dad joke.
Phil, that whole point, I want the saturation up. I want volume spiked. I want everyone to see this.
Man, I was sitting on the edge of my seat like, oh my gosh, I bet he's going to do a great move. And then all of a sudden I get this, hey, cow.
Come here, cow. Hey, cow. So there's the manager. He was like, I guess he was, maybe in his 30s, family, had a family. And he was like, whatever, he was like the cool guy, the cool, manager for all the teens, and would hang out, but like would curse with us, cuss with us. But like, we didn't cuss, like that wasn't us. And he was like, hey, what the F you got? And I would hear him. He wouldn't usually talk like that. So I think he actually sent me on break one time, and he was like, hurry up, get something to eat, go. I was like, all right. They had bread. We used to love this. They'd make the Cuban bread. And if the Cuban bread was like, if it was made in the morning and it was in the afternoon by like 4:00 or something like that, then it was half off. And it was like $1.25. So I was like, yes, that's great. So I'd done this before, and I've done it with this manager, and I don't know what was up his butt that day, but I would walk and I'd find one of the day old bread, and he told me to hurry. So I just took it, under $1. And I went to the break room. I started sitting down with everyone, started eating it. He flies in, like pushes the door open. Like, he's mad. He's like, Aaron, what the F are you doing? What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, he's cursing at me. He's in my grill. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he said, I was just told that you went and grabbed food off the shelf, and you were coming back here, you were stealing food. And he was, I'm sitting with bread in my hand, like, like a loaf of bread that costs less than $1 that I will pay for that. And I understand now, well, yeah, you should pay for it before. Not to understand now. I totally get that. This was not an issue in the past. Like, this was right. This was an issue for him.
Bread, but yeah.
Yeah. And he laid into me. And there's been times before where, an adult when I was younger, would do that, and like unrightfully, and I'd go off. But this man, he berated me so bad, he left me speechless, and he walked out like almost in tears, like what? He's like, you do this crap again. So already, so you can tell at that point, I'm not really liking this job that much at this point, and that was like the beginning of the end. So, so there was, on to the beginning of the end, there was a manager, and this happened like, I'll tell this kind of separate. Now I'll tell it this way. So we're not supposed to, I'll start off with, we're not supposed to chase after thieves, right? Thieves. We're not supposed to we're not supposed to stop. We're not supposed to do any of that. Right. So, and looking back now as an adult, I feel so sad about the situation. A lady was walking out of the inn, door, and beep, 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 beeping like crazy, right? Different than the boom, beep, beep, And so, and I'm like, ma'am, where, can you stop? Can you shut? And she's like, no, you can't stop me. You can't stop me. And right at the same time, I know I started following her out. I was like, ma'am. And right at the same time, another guy that I worked with, also a teenager, he was walking in. He was the other cashier, and he was like, what's going on? I remember his white button up was unbuttoned, and he had just like the white shirt underneath, black pants. He's like, what's going on? And this lady's getting on the bike. And I'm like, and I'm right in the doorway. I'm like, man, she's stealing stuff. And he's like, what should I do? He's like, I should go after her, right? I'm like, you do you. I was like, yes. I was like, you go for it. And he chased her down. He's like, ma'am, I need just, and she wasn't going fast. So like you can see him in the parking lot, kind of walking briskly, and he's like, ma'am, and she's like, and she's screwed. You can hear her screaming, don't touch me. I'm pregnant. I was like, oh my goodness, this is not going to be good. And what she ended up, I think they caught her. We found out it's in my mind, what she ended up stealing was batteries and beef, like beef and
so she went all B section. She was like, okay, let me anything starting with a B, I'm going to grab it.
I don't have any room for bananas.
It's falling out. The beef is falling out of my pockets, but
beef is falling out of my pockets.
Yeah, the banana
holding these batteries.
Yes. The bread pudding bread pudding wasn't fresh enough for me.
Wasn't fresh enough. But again, that's the clientele that we, there was, gunshots, gunshots in the parking lot. We had a few of those, for whatever reason. Like, I don't have any resolution, that's the scariest thing. Like, you don't have resolution for something traumatic happening. Like, yeah, gunshots. And what happened by the third time, it was like, gunshots,
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Well, you're on 40th at Hillsborough. So, I know exactly where you're at.
Yeah. Oh, well, that cash and carry. So the cash and carry was a little bit more west and east. It was 50th and 50th and Columbus.
Oh, so even better. Okay.
Yeah. I told you slightly.
I thought you were going to move me somewhere like where I was like, oh, you know what? Okay, that's a nicer neighborhood.
I told you slightly better. It was slightly better.
50th.
Well, the cool.
Yeah, 50th. No, I'm going to go ahead and disagree with you there. I think it's about the same. I think we.
Yeah. You're right.
We shifted ourselves eastward.
That's really all it is. It's just, unfortunately, it was a lateral move career-wise.
We've all had those.
Here's the nostalgic part of it is that I grew up going to that grocery store with my grandma. So, and like all throughout being a kid, when I think I hadn't been there, like I was 10 years old. Like I stopped going to the grocery store with my grandma, or 10, 11 years old. And I moved in with my mom, and it was like 6 years later, I come in and I'm like, oh, this is so many of the feels, mainly because they hadn't remodeled, it was still the same. It was
like, I love this. Oh, the smell of drunken people
and
buying
lime.
A whole bunch of limes. Yeah,
drunken lime beef batteries.
Batteries
all over.
Yes,
delicious. Okay, so the part of this story, part of this this show is about the hustle, like the different the work that you put in, the work ethic, right? And man, I hustled at cash and carry. Even when I was like done, I still hustled because I needed money, because I was helping my mom out, or I needed, a big thing every year was like homecoming. All right, I got to get a fit for homecoming. That was like on me, completely, and clothes and shoes, and it was on me. So I needed to work, and I was always picking up hours, always picking up shifts. And the manager, she wasn't a servant leader. She was a very authoritarian leader. And I always had her back. Hey, I will come fill this shift in. And for like a shift man, for like the cashier manager, that's a big thing, so, which I got to see, how big that is, making sure full coverage. So, she asked me one day for if I could, what's it called? Fill in for somebody. I forget what it was specifically, but I couldn't do it. It was senior year. I know it was like a lot of things active, but for some reason, like I couldn't do it that evening. And she said, and so she threatened me. She said, if you, or what was it? The way she said it was like, oh yeah, all you guys always worried about getting more hours. And then some people are going to start wondering why they don't have any hours on the shift. And she did that to me twice. Right. And the second time, and I was trying to be, and I'm respectful, but I looked at her, I said, threaten my hours one more time, where the quote comes from. Because I'm not going to, even as a kid, I'm not going to live in a life. I lived in a life of stress as a kid. I knew how to manage enough to push some stress away that I didn't want, that I didn't need. And I knew I was like, threaten me one more time. And that's one more time. Threaten my hours one more time. And she said, what are you going to do? I said, oh, you'll see. Threaten my hours one more time. Okay, Aaron. Cool. I went in, I put in for, what was it? I think it was homecoming. I think I put in time for homecoming, or it was something I needed off for school, but I asked for that time off, got it approved. She, like a month in advance, like well in advance. And she asked me, one day at work, it was, right. I must have just gotten there. It wasn't busy. It was before 5 o'clock. I remember that because she called me over and she said, hey, I need you to pick up this shift this night. I said, I'm sorry, I can't. That's my homecoming. I've called that off. That, I've already bought my fit. I already bought my outfit. And she said, once again, she's like, you guys are going to start wondering why you aren't getting enough hours. Now, within that, I think it was within that last time that she threatened my hours to this time. That's also when the other manager went off on me. It was just not. It was not a good situation, right? Not supportive, not great, not the best. So she said, she threatened my hours, and I looked at her. I said, "What did I tell you?" And she said, "What?" I said, "Okay." And I went back to my cash register, and Mario, my best friend, he was also my bag boy, and he was like, "What happened?" And I told him, I was like, "Man, she threatened my hours one more time." He's like, you know what you said? I was like, bro. Right. And this is the real, I wish there was a recording of this. I just looked at him and I said, bro. And again, also, please out there, recognize that I was 16 years old. Okay. Please understand this.
Give the guy some grace. Come on now.
Yeah. Give me some grace. And I reached back and grabbed that little phone and went poof, and hit it in. Hello, shoppers. This is your cashier on lane 5, and I am now quit. Thank you, or I've now quit. Thank you so much for shopping at blah blah blah. And I hung up, and there was no other cashier. I was the cashier. So the manager she said, "What is going on?" And I said, "You heard me." And then I look at Mario, and Mario goes, "Me too." And I was like, "What you?" That's when you gotta.
That's a real gangster move. Yeah,
that's when you gotta ride or die, right? He's like, me too. I was like, man, you were doing good. You were doing good.
He's fine. He was like, I didn't threaten hours. Why did you make me do this?
Yeah, you're fine. I was like, okay.
He still doesn't forgive you for that for this day.
Right. He's why do you? Yeah. So I pulled my till. My money. I walk up and I said, you heard me? And she's like, yeah, the whole store heard you. I said, well, there it is. And I put my tray down. Bye. And I go to walk out, and she goes, Aaron, what? You have to count down your till. It was like the most. It was the most depressing.
Just finding any way to get you back,
dude. It was the most deflating walkout ever. Cause like, yeah. And then it was like, oh, 20, 40, 60, 81, 20, 40, 60.
Oh, this is awkward, but I'm going to keep doing it.
It was very awkward in the back with all the managers talking about me and also trying not to talk about me because I'm there, and it's just weird and quiet. I'm like, counting the money down. Yeah, that was.
You know what's crazy about that story is that I think that one of the biggest issues we have, even as a leader, but also as an employee, is you get kind of wrapped in the goal, and you brought up something, servant-based leadership. The hardest part is to remind yourself to be a servant-based leader. So like, honestly, you get maybe so wrapped up in your own metrics, and I know I've got this really good employee named Aaron who does a really great job up front. He's competitive. He's super good with the customers, but then, for some reason I have to be the one to bend him up every single time he comes in, just to be like, hey, I've proven something. I don't know.
Right.
And yeah, man, that's tough. That's tough. Because the story was both funny and it was kind of sad, because it's like, it's like somebody that you were doing a great job. And of course you were a teenager, so who knows? I mean, you probably thought you were doing a good job.
Sucked.
Yeah, maybe you were horrible.
I was a teenager. I was a teenager who would quit by grabbing the phone.
Exactly. So there could be more to this story. I'd love to get her on the podcast and figure out what she has to say about this.
She's serving 20 to 40.
Okay.
No, I don't know.
That's what I was waiting on. Okay. She actually grabbed all of the limes and the bread and said, you know what?
And she took
Aaron's
out.
leaving. She was like, I'm gone.
I'm gone. No more of this.
No, it's a great story. And it's also a great reminder that, when you're in a leadership role, regardless of who you're managing, like, they are human too, right? And the things that they do are just as important to your success as it is to theirs. So, sometimes just reminders.
Absolutely. Silver lining to the whole thing. Mario and I quit. We left. We went to an old mall, Tampa Bay Mall. It was now $1 place, but it was Tampa Bay Mall, which it was on the last leg of being a good mall. But we both went there. We met Derek Jeter. He was walking around in the middle of the day, and we met him. And I went and put an application for Champ Sports that day and got the job that day. So, and I was with them for almost 2 years. So fun times, it's all connecting. And I think Champ Sports is like my second or third episode that we talked about. So really good. So thank you, Dexter, so much for this. I really appreciate it. I hope my story was fulfilling to you as yours was to me, man. It was, I love this. I love this podcast. I love talking to my friends, talking to people about their ridiculous job stories. Cause honestly, that's one thing that we all have in common, is that we all have a worse job story. We all have a crappy job story. And Dexter, I'm putting this to you and to everyone else out there. If you ever need a networking question or something to say at a dinner party, or you're sitting at a corporate function or dinner or something with a whole table, wedding, I do this all the time. It's my first question out of the box. I say hi to a couple people, and the person, I'm like, okay, hey, what is the most ridiculous job story you have? I lead with that. And they're like, oh, I don't know. Yeah. The worst job story. What is it? And everyone has, and almost everyone at the table will participate. Everyone will get involved. I've had people take, in a wedding, the centerpiece, take it and move it off the table so they can talk across. Cause it's a great conversation starter and great networking tool as well, man. So what we do is we wrap up here with like lessons learned. So we wrap up with talking about your story and my story, and what you've learned from your story, or is there anything that ever that comes back to you every now and then about that story?
Yeah, I think the biggest. I don't know that there was some profound lesson in getting beat by your CEO in ping pong. However,
I think so.
Yeah, well, trust me. But I do think that there's something important in just the fact that I was even there in the first place, right? And that he never became too big for the company itself. He started the company. He had a vision for who its leaders should be, and then he wanted to be there with them, mentoring them, helping them, even though on a day-to-day basis, like he basically had nothing to do with it. So I think sometimes just reminding yourself that you as a leader, you're never too big for the things that you have going on, that everything matters from down to this most minute details all the way up to the top.
Absolutely. Great, man. That's it. And it's a great sentiment, great thing to hold on to throughout the time. Mine, I think I would take from that the opposite, seeing like, you have an example of a good leader, right? You have an example of a leader who's getting down and you can look at and say, okay, this is something I want to emulate, especially his skills on ping pong. But on my side, I've always looked at it as like, I'm never going to be that manager. I'm never going to berate anyone. And I grew up, my mom had like businesses. So I grew up thinking, okay, I'm going to be in a position where I'm going to be leading some people someday. That was just always in my mind. And I'm never going to be this person. I'm never going to threaten someone with their hours. I'm never going to make someone feel unsafe and insecure in a place that they're coming optionally. They're optionally. Yeah, maybe they don't have many options, but still they're option to come. And people have enough stress and drama in their life for just living. Like, why would I dare want to add extra stress or offload some of my stress to somebody else, So I look at that. I think about that. Like, I'm never going to yell and berate any of my, I felt, 16-year-old kid and like around his peers about a 16-year-old boy. Right. And I don't know if things have changed, but when I was growing up, that was crushing to the ego, in a time where your ego is really fragile. And I would never do that. I would never do that to anyone. I remember that feeling. It's a horrible feeling.
Yeah.
So,
Definitely.
20 to 40. She's in 20 to 40. No. Dexter, thank you so very much for being my guest. I greatly appreciate you, brother. I appreciate everyone else out there. And we'll see you next time. Man, I got to come up with an ending to this, don't I? Like an outro. Bibbidi bobbidi boo. There it is.
Bibbidi bobbidi boo.
Oh, there it is. Boop.
This has been a broadcast of the MSP Media Network.